Section 5. The Human Self. As above, Edelman, however, reserves this highest level of the self to humans only. Quote, once higher-order consciousness begins to emerge, a self can be constructed from social and affective relationships. This self, entailing the development of a self-conscious agent, a subject, goes far beyond the biologically based individuality of an animal with primary consciousness. End quote. Edelman, who uses the term higher order rather than autobiographical self, emphasizes how the emergence of this higher self liberates the individual from immediate interaction with the environment into much bigger conceptions of time. Quote, an individual is freed to some extent from bondage to the remembered present. If primary consciousness marries the individual to real time, higher order consciousness allows for at least a temporary divorce, which is made possible by the creation of concepts of time past and time future. A whole new world of intentionality, categorization, and discrimination can be experienced and remembered. As a result, concepts and thinking flourish. Relationships that promise positive rewards can be fostered. Resentments can be nourished, and plots can be laid. Scenes are enriched by symbols. Value connects to meaning and intentionality and can itself be modified in more richly adaptive ways by evolving neural systems that link individual learning back to the alteration of the value systems themselves. End quote. In contradiction to the deconstructors of the self we looked at before, Damasio is very clear that the biological roots of the self guarantee its unity and continuity. Quote, the tendency toward unified control prevails during our developmental history, probably because a single organism requires that there be one single self if the job of maintaining life is to be accomplished successfully. More than one self per organism is not a good recipe for survival. The rich imaginings of our mind do prepare multiple drafts for our organism's life script to place the idea in the framework proposed by Daniel Dennett. Yet the shadows of the deeply biological core self and the autobiographical self that grow under its influence constantly propitiate the selection of drafts that accord with a single unified self. Moreover, the delicately shaped selectional machinery of our imagination stakes the probabilities of selection toward the same historically continuous self. End quote. Damasio also insists that this means one person, one body, one self, one body. He mentions multiple personality disorder, but points out that A, only one self is in charge at any one time, and B, the condition is regarded as pathological. Damasio goes on to ask, quote, why should we not commonly find 2 or 3 persons in one body? What an economy of biological tissue! Or why should not persons of great intellectual capacity and imagination inhabit 2 or 3 bodies? Why should there not be bodiless persons in our midst? Ghosts, spirits, weightless and colorless creatures. Think of the space savings, end quote. But of course, none of this is or ever has been possible because, quote, a mind, that which defines a person, requires a body, and that body, a human body to be sure, naturally generates one mind. A mind is so closely shaped by the body and destined to serve it that only one mind could possibly arise in it. No body, never mind. For any body, never more than one mind. Body-minded minds help save the body, end quote. Damasio draws attention to the fact that, while the self is still generally regarded as a mystery or an illusion, his theory of the self is based on recent but well-established neurophysiological research. Quote, although much has been known about how the organism is represented in the brain, the idea that such representations could be linked to the mind and to the notion of the self has received little attention. The question of what might give the brain a natural means to generate the singular and stable reference we call self has remained unanswered. I have believed for quite some time that the answer lies in a particular set of representations of the organism and of its potential actions. In Descartes' era, I advanced the possibility that the part of the mind we call self was, biologically speaking, grounded on a collection of non-conscious neural patterns standing for the part of the organism we call the body proper, end quote.